Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Objective brought to you by the Ayn Rand Center UK, where we apply the practical philosophy of objectivism to current events, well, to everything in life. Today, the most pressing current event, of course, is the invasion of Hamas, the invasion of Israel by Hamas. And we are going to be keeping you updated on this daily, as the news stations are. But we're probably going to give you a slightly different point of view. And the title of today's episode is, Can Israel Save the Hostages? I'm sure we're going to have a very unique perspective about that. Razi, the Dark Lord Emperor himself, who's usually behind the scenes, is showing his face. It's a rare exhibit, but he's going to give us an update on exactly what's happening. And then we will start the conversation about the hostages and Israel and the possibility of saving them. Razi, what's up, man? What's going on over there?
Yeah, so some of the more recent updates. So the number of deaths has the latest update that I saw is it's over 1,300. As we mentioned a couple of days ago, they're updating it by the 100. They're not updating it with every death that they count as they usually do. And of course, that number will probably continue to rise somewhat. Just for context, the 6-day war was, as the name would indicate, was 6 days long. Israel had fewer than 800 dead in that war. This is over 1,300 in one day, in the span of a few hours. So yeah, you would hope that the gravity of the situation.
And might I say that this is adjusted for population, this becomes probably 3 times or 10 times the casualty rate for the United States in 9/11, right? I mean, it's the equivalent of 36,000 dead.
Yeah, closer to 10 or more. Yeah, it's something that on 9/11, some of the more cynical people in Israel said, now America knows how we feel because this is what we experience regularly. But of course, Israel never experienced anything like 9/11. Now it has, and of course, in a way, because of the way in which it was carried out, it much more resembles the Holocaust than 9/11. Again, it wasn't as successful by their standards as the Holocaust, because they didn't have the ability to kill all the Jews. They would have if they could, but the way, the slaughtering babies, raping women next to the dead bodies of their friends, laughing at a man who's crying next to his girlfriend's dead body. That's we'll not go into too many of the details, but we will go into some as we do, because I think it's important to realize just what just how horrible these savages are, and for the world to realize what it is that Israel has always been dealing with, and now is available in the form of videos of them bragging about it. But just a couple more updates from Israel. So there's a little bit of issues up north with Hezbollah, nothing major yet. There's some sirens going off from time to time. There were 3 soldiers dead a few days ago in fighting up there. Israel's one of the major opposition parties. I think the biggest opposition party has joined the government, and they now have what they call a national unity government. Of course, it's not all the parties, but others might join, and within the agreement, it is stated that as soon as the war is over, they will resign. This is, of course, up until Saturday morning, Israel was in the midst of the biggest political turmoil it has had in its history. So now there is a temporary unity. We'll see how long it lasts, because again, as we've said on this channel, Israel, the elimination of Hamas in Gaza is something that should have happened before. It didn't happen before, and then it should have happened on Saturday. And we are now Thursday evening. It's 7:35 in Israel p.m. and we see some bombings, as we've seen before. Some buildings some buildings are no longer standing. That's nice, but Gaza still is standing, and Hamas is standing, and Hamas is still firing rockets at Israel. So the military, and of course the international community's support for Israel was strong in the first day and has weakened since. With every day that passes, we hear more and more of the response needs to be proportional. Israel should watch out for civilian casualties. The UN is demanding that Israel allow humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. Of course, we know what that humanitarian aid goes to. We've seen the results of it.
And even American politicians have been talking about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, to which I responded publicly on Twitter. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is Hamas. That is the humanitarian crisis.
Yeah, it's Hamas, and it's Hamas that has the full support of the people of Gaza. So we need to remember that when we talk about civilians, innocents who are suffering and so on. Again, as we always say, children are always innocent. They are the victims of their parents. Other than that, there is nobody I really feel bad for in Gaza, no matter how much the Western media tries to convince me otherwise.
Indeed, and Razi, but I have to say there are some good voices that I'm hearing in some of the right-wing press where they're starting to sound a bit objectivist. I don't expect this to last, but they are now saying that any innocent casualties incurred in Gaza are the responsibility of Hamas, not Israel. This is the first time I've ever heard politicians speak on a national legacy media forum in this type of language before. So some people are saying the right things. I don't know that they have the courage to carry it out completely, but at least the verbiage is now starting to shift in a direction that I don't think will remain that way. And it's in small pockets only, but it's there.
Yeah, I try to avoid media from outside of Israel at the moment, but even Israeli media, of course, I typically don't like. They become very patriotic at moments like this, and even among them, there are different voices. So the one channel that's on this one issue better than the others is a sort of religious conservative channel, and they say some of the right things, and I listen to that, and then when they start praying, which they actually do on the channel, then I switch to a different one. But yeah, my optimism is limited, and whatever optimism I have, it's not.
As is mine. And I heard an Israeli official being interviewed on, I think it was Hannity, who said that they have to make sure that Hamas is incapable of doing this stuff again. Now that sounded dangerous to me. It didn't sound like we have to annihilate Hamas completely, because that's the way you keep them from ever murdering human beings again. It sounded like it's a balloon, a trial balloon sent out there to get us used to the idea of, again, somehow compromising with these savages, somehow letting them escape, somehow letting them live, somehow letting them put off the violence, kick it down the road to another day.
Yeah, the strongest part of Israel's response so far is the rhetoric, and you're not going to win a war with rhetoric unless it is backed up with military action, and so far it's not.
So now, if we've gotten the updates out of the way, I think we should get to the idea of can Israel actually save the hostages? I have very strong feelings about this, but I want to defer to you first, since you are a native. You know this the country better than I do. We probably share very similar sentiments, but I want to give you the first opportunity to respond to this. Can Israel save the hostages?
So just to give a little bit of the details, and again, the details aren't 100% clear. The latest number I saw is the speculation is that 162 people have been taken hostage, and that up to half of them might already be dead. Now, can they be saved? So first of all, my answer is no. Just to make it clear. Now, what would have to be done for them to come back alive? What Israel could do is release all Palestinian prisoners, probably not pursue any serious or any military action whatsoever. And then Hamas and Islamic Jihad, by the way, who have, at last I heard, 30 of the hostages, they will give them back. They've done it before. Gilad Shalit, the one Israeli soldier who was held by Hamas for a period of 5 years, was released in exchange for 1,000 Palestinian prisoners, 400 of whom had blood on their hands. So Israel could do that. They can release all Palestinian prisoners and not pursue military action. And the result,
how many is that? How many is that? I've heard a number as high as 20 or 30,000.
I don't know. I don't know the number. That sounds possible. But of course, Israel is already, I don't know if even the people in Israel realize how potentially close they are to actually being annihilated themselves. Once there's a ground operation in Gaza, anything that might happen in the north, even without a ground operation in Gaza, Hezbollah is several times stronger than Hamas. And they have I don't know how many more rockets and those rockets are more efficient than the rockets that Hamas is firing all over Israel, or over most of Israel. So fighting this war on two fronts, especially the way Israel fights, which is with attempting to minimize civilian casualties, that is a war that Israel can lose. There are still, last I heard of terrorists infiltrating Israel was last night. So this is still happening from the Gaza border. This can happen from the Lebanese border. It could happen from the Syrian border. That's relatively more quiet, but that's the current situation. It's not necessarily a permanent situation. And of course, Iran themselves can, they're not likely to just go to war with Israel out of the blue, but, maybe they're waiting for Israel to be weakened by their proxies in Lebanon and Gaza, and then take action. So anything Israel does militarily and anything Israel does diplomatically, so to speak, like giving back thousands, if not tens of thousands of terrorists to the Palestinians, instead of having tens of thousands fewer Palestinian terrorists by just killing them, Israel will increase their number by thousands. That is very dangerous, and Israel is dangerously close to a war that it will lose and lose in the worst possible way.
I just want to go on the record as saying the idea of massing 250,000 or more Israeli troops on the Gaza border and then sending them into an incursion in Gaza to go house by house is one of the dumbest propositions I have ever heard. That anybody supports this in Israel and the United States is fundamentally morally twisted, because urban warfare in and of itself is an incredibly comes at an incredible cost to human life, to innocent human life. And I'm going to say the IDF going into Gaza are the innocent human lives, putting themselves in harm's way so that their esteem rises, which it never does permanently. It's an emotional bank account that's never filled up in the eyes of the rest of the world that hates them. There's only one real way to get rid of Hamas, as you suggested in the very beginning, and that's to flatten Gaza completely. You save the Israeli soldiers the trouble of going house to house and being blown up by booby traps, or finding pockets of fanatical Islamists waiting for them to murder them, which is what they live for and want to die for. You save them that trouble by completely flattening it. If you have to go in and mop up afterwards, go in and mop up afterwards, but also turn your attention to the enemy in the north, because the enemy in the north is, as you say, waiting for this weakness. It seems like they're probing right now. It seems like they're They're fainting. They're sending occasional missiles in to see what the Israelis are going to do, to see what the Americans will do. And of course, doing nothing only strengthens them. We do have aircraft carriers there. We do have another one going on the way. I think that does send a message, but if it's just concrete and steel sitting there in the ocean without actually running sorties into Lebanon and destroying Hezbollah, and threatening Iran with utter and total destruction, then it's just a gesture.
Yeah, the only way to win the war, even in Gaza alone, let alone on two fronts, is from the air. And yeah, Israel knows what a ground operation means in Gaza. You know, you don't just have to look at ground operations around the world and what it's like in other places. Israel has done this. Soldiers die. Now, Hamas is undoubtedly better prepared for this. They went out on this operation knowing that a ground operation is coming, and they're prepared for it. So yeah, soldier deaths will be very, very high. There will be, in the hundreds.
Razi, one of the things people don't understand on the outside is how densely populated Gaza is. It is the most densely populated piece of real estate in the entire world. We're talking about a very small area of land that holds millions of people. And the streets and the buildings there are compact. It's a very, very difficult situation for even the most expert fighters in the world, let alone reservists who are called up, who or conscripts. It's not like this is their daily job. It's not like they're experts at this, who'll be thrown into a terrifying and horrible situation.
Yeah, now some of these reservists have been to Gaza and they're going back, but they were there in their late teens, early 20s. Now, some of them have families that they had to leave behind, and they're going there again to fight a war that can't be won that way. Again, I wish Israel didn't do this. I don't think that is. I think they are going to. The number of fronts this war might be fought on isn't necessarily going to be even limited to two, because again, if Iran gets involved, then that is they obviously are much stronger than both Hamas and Hezbollah combined. We have a super chat from Catherine who asks, why does the world never learn from history? Mark, I'll leave that to you.
I wanted to hear your response to that first. I saw that and I was about to call it out. I wanted to see what you say first. I have my own answer, but I want to see if we're similar.
I don't have an answer. I mean,
okay.
I think my broad kind of generic answer would be philosophy. I have nothing specific beyond that.
Yes, provided the same moral premises hold, you're going to get the same results. And the moral premises that have more or less ruled the world since the beginning, more or less, and since the development of philosophy and modern civilization has been altruism. So long as people think it's appropriate to sacrifice, for something greater than themselves, we're going to have this kind of evil where you see Hamas supposedly fighting for, Palestinian freedom. And so long as you see this sacrifice, you're going to see Israelis go in and attempt to save the enemy and perish themselves, because that's what sacrifice is. So provided we have these ethics in place and no firm grasp of rational egoism, then we're going to keep making these errors, because a rational egoist would understand that you have a moral responsibility to end the threat permanently by any means necessary. And that means completely and totally taking the enemy out. If somebody breaks into my home, I'm obligated to defend myself. I don't know why they're breaking into my home, to kill me, rape my wife, steal my stuff, doesn't matter. They've declared war on me by coming into my house. I am morally obligated to stop them permanently. And if that means killing them, it means killing them. In the case of Hamas, who have been a terrorist organization for decades upon decades, whose leaders are a plutocracy that don't even live in Qatar, but don't even live in Gaza, but use ethno hatred and religious fanaticism as a means of stoking up support and gaining profits from idiots around the world. These people are in that category of criminality and have to be dealt with extreme prejudice. In other words, kill them all. If a leader of Hamas is still living in Qatar, there's something wrong.
Yeah, and I don't know how Qatar is the country that seems to be able to get away with this. But they are, and I wouldn't mind seeing some sort of military operation there, at least targeted at the leaders. If not military operation, then at least a Mossad operation. But again, I don't expect that to happen.
So Razi, I want to say something that's going to sound potentially awful to lots of ears, but should the primary consideration be taking back the hostages? I think, I mean, we should presume them dead, and if we can preserve them, we should attempt to a degree, but the primary operation should be to kill these hostage takers, plain and simple. I think that sends a message to future hostage takers that when you do this kind of thing, we will kill you.
And these hostage takers have heard the message of previous hostages, or the taking of previous hostages, which is Israel will give anything to bring them back, which, of course, that's when you value human life, it makes sense to an extent, but considering what that means, it doesn't make sense, and it shouldn't happen. And so, yes, presuming that this was on Saturday when I was watching the videos of the hostages, seeing their faces when they're taken away was something that was kind of the first thing that came to my mind is, these are walking dead people, basically. And the thing
Yes.
is they might be better off dead, because they are being held by animals, and how those animals will treat them, we don't know, but it's, maybe.
But by the way, this is a slight diversion, but there is a book called Meditations on Violence, which I think everybody should read. I know these circumstances, your guiding emotion is to protect your life, which you think you will be doing when they tie your hands behind your back and incapacitate you for self-defense and carry you off, but you are not. Never, under any circumstances, let anybody tie your hands behind your back. Die fighting, because when they do that, or they move you to a position where they can take you and do whatever they want to you, you are dead. So die fighting. I just wanted to say that because I just remembered seeing that tragic scene where that woman was being pulled out of the car with her hands tied behind her back, bloody, grabbed by the hair by some savage, while his pack yelled Allahu Akbar and pushed her into the other side of the car. Don't ever let anybody, in any circumstance, folks, in your own home, at a home invasion, anywhere, nobody ties your hands behind your back. Fight, 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 fight. And I wish that's what those folks did.
So before we wrap up, I want to say a few things. So we mentioned yesterday that we're looking into ways in which we can support and encourage our audience to support efforts in Israel. One thing that we do know about is Boaz at Ayn Rand Center Israel has this project called Atlas Juniors for promising young students in it happens to be in the city of Ashkelon, which is close to the border with Gaza. They have had rockets fired at them. They have had terrorists invade their city, and so there is a link now in the live chat where you can support. There's a retreat planned for them for next week. So that is one way in which you can help people in Israel. I mentioned on one of yesterday's shows that We asked people here in the UK if they can offer a spare room or a sofa to anybody who has to get out of Israel, and we've had a few people offer that, and we've had a few people take us up on those offers. Somebody later asked me, I don't know if they're in the chat or they want to identify themselves, but somebody who's not in the UK said they can offer a sofa. Yeah, if people need to get out of Israel, they will go anywhere that's safe. So if anybody has the ability to do that, please get in touch with us. If anybody in Israel is watching and needs to get out and needs a place to stay for a while, let us know as well. We'll keep looking into ways we can help. You're not hearing us promote our membership and things like that, and we're not doing sponsored episodes at the moment. It's not, ARCUK is not on hold, so but much of our stuff is. So we do appreciate the super chats. We still need to pay the bills and pay salaries, but of course we are not in this kind of lifeboat situation. So we will keep looking into ways in which we can help support people in Israel during this time.
That's very good. Okay, coming up in a couple of minutes, 6 p.m. UK time, the reality show, the one-state solution, the only way forward, question mark. We will be discussing that 7 p.m. UK time. The West is morally bankrupt. New video on the Briefly Objective. Thank you, Jonathan Honig, for $4.99. I normally sign us off with check your premises, which you always should do, but I want to sign off with something else, a little bit more intense. Razi, forgive me if this is not what you want, but I have to say it. Kill Hamas. Kill them.